Have you ever felt like you didn't belong, like the world around you was just a little off? For me, that feeling became a terrifying reality. My name is Alex, and I'm a traveler. I seek out the forgotten corners of the world, the places that whisper stories the modern world has long since ignored. A few weeks ago, I stumbled upon a town not on any map. It was called, well, it didn't have a name on the faded wooden sign at its entrance. It just said, "Welcome." The first thing I noticed was the quiet. It wasn't the peaceful quiet of nature. It was a heavy, suffocating silence. The air was thick with a strange, damp fog, even though the sun was a bright, hazy disk in the sky. The houses were old, but perfectly maintained. Flowers bloomed in every window box, their colors almost unnaturally vibrant against the desaturated gray of the town. But there were no people, no cars, no signs of life, except for the eerie stillness. I walked down the main street, my footsteps echoing unnervously. That's when I saw them, the townspeople. They stood in doorways, by windows, on their porches, all perfectly still. They weren't talking, they weren't moving. They were just watching me. As I got closer, I saw their faces. They were all smiling, wide, unblinking, identical smiles. Their eyes were hollow, vacant, like they were looking right through me. A cold dread, sharp and icy, began to creep up my spine. This wasn't a welcome, it was a warning. I tried to greet them, a simple hello, but the word caught in my throat. Their smiles never wavered, their eyes never blinked. I felt like an actor on a stage I didn't know I was on, and the audience was waiting for me to miss my cue. I quickened my pace, desperate to reach the other side of town, to put this unsettling place behind me. The sun was directly overhead now, burning through the thin fog. And that's when I saw it. Or rather, I didn't see it. I looked down at the cobblestone street beneath my feet. The sun cast long, distorted shapes from the buildings, the lampposts, the picket fences. But where I stood, there was nothing. No dark shape stretching out behind me, no outline of my body on the ground. I was shadowless. My blood ran cold. I spun around, frantically checking, but it was true. Under the bright, hazy sun, I cast no shadow. Panic seized me. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I looked back at the townspeople. Their smiles seemed to widen, a silent, shared understanding passing between them. They knew. They had been waiting for me to realize. The dread I felt before was nothing compared to the absolute terror that gripped me now. Why didn't I have a shadow? Was I a ghost? Was I dreaming? I pinched my arm hard. The pain was sharp. Real. This was happening. I started to run. I didn't care where, just away from those smiling faces and the impossible reality of my missing shadow. The silence was broken only by the sound of my own ragged breaths and my feet pounding against the stone. But the town seemed to stretch on forever. Every street I turned down looked identical. The same perfectly kept houses, the same vibrant flowers, the same eerie stillness. And always, always, the townspeople watching from the periphery. I ducked into an alley, pressing myself against a cold brick wall, trying to catch my breath, trying to think. What was this place? A shadow is the proof that you exist, that you occupy space, that you are a physical being in the world. Without it, what was I? The thought was maddening. I peered around the corner. Down the street, a small girl stood alone in the middle of the road. She was holding a doll, and just like everyone else, she was smiling that same vacant, terrifying smile. She wasn't looking at me though, she was looking down at her own feet. And there, stretching out behind her on the cobblestones, was a perfect dark shadow. Every single one of them had a shadow. I was the only one who didn't. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I wasn't like them. I was the anomaly. The outcast. The thing that didn't belong. The silent judgment in their smiling eyes finally made sense. Was this some kind of test? A curse? I remembered the old legends my grandmother used to tell me, stories of shadow thieves and towns that trap souls. I'd always dismissed them as fairy tales. But here, in this nameless, silent town, those fairy tales felt horrifyingly real. I had to get out. I couldn't spend another second in this place. I decided to retrace my steps, to find the road I'd come in on. But as I moved, something changed. The townspeople, who had been so still, began to turn their heads in unison. Slowly, mechanically, their smiling faces followed my every move. The silence remained, but now it was charged with a predatory energy. They weren't just watching anymore, they were waiting. The path back to the main road seemed to twist and change before my eyes. What was a straight street moments ago was now a dead end. The geography of the town was shifting, trapping me like a rat in a maze. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time seemed to have lost its meaning here. The hazy sun never moved in the sky. It was a perpetual, shadowless noon. Exhaustion began to set in, but the fear was a constant fuel. I finally found myself back in the town square, the place I'd first noticed my missing shadow. They were all there, gathered in a loose circle, leaving the center empty for me. Their smiles were wider now, expectant. In the center of the square was an old sundial. A desperate, insane idea formed in my mind. A sundial works by casting a shadow. If I stood on it, what would happen? Would it prove I was real, or would it confirm I was nothing? With nowhere left to run, I walked slowly towards it. The eyes of the entire town were on me. I stepped onto the stone base and stood where the gnomon, the part that casts the shadow, should have been. I held my breath. Nothing? The sundial remained blank. The sun shone down, and the stone face showed no time, no line, no proof of my existence. A collective, silent sigh seemed to pass through the crowd. It wasn't a sigh of relief. It was a sigh of satisfaction. The game was over. I had failed the test. Suddenly, one of them, an old man at the front, took a single step forward, and then another. Soon, the entire circle of smiling, hollow-eyed people began to close in on me, moving with a slow, deliberate purpose. Their shadows stretched out before them, long and dark, like grasping fingers reaching for me, reaching to claim the one who had none. I'm still in this town. I'm recording this on my phone, hiding in the one place they don't seem to enter, the old, dark church at the edge of town. There are no smiles in here, but there are no shadows either. I don't know if I'll ever get out. But if you find this, if you ever see a town that isn't on a map, don't stop. Don't be curious. Just keep driving. Because some places aren't meant to be found, and some things, once lost, can never be reclaimed. Thanks for listening. Subscribe for more stories from the road less traveled.